All right, now we're live with of Deconversion story. I'm talking my name Sample, and we're going to hear his pathway from religion to reason. And you know the spiel here. You start out when you farthest back you can remember about religion and stuff like that. What led you to become the atheist you are today?
Oh, that's copious amounts of drug use. I don't remember when the doubts. I don't remember when the doubts started. I grew up United Methodist. My family is not devout, but we went to church pretty much every Sunday when I was a kid. And I had a pastor in the church that was very approachable and taught a very non-obtrusive version of Christianity that wasn't a whole lot about it that ruffled anybody's feathers. And even as I got old enough to realize that we were being served great foods at communion because alcohol was bad. I wasn't particularly, nonplussed about what I was being taught until I was 16. And by that time, we'd pretty much quit going to church regularly because my brother was in college and my parents weren't going to drag me without my brother to church. So we just kind of quit. And my high school band director was the choir director at my church, completely as a matter of coincidence. He moved to town and started going to that church. And then I had been there since the church opened, I think 1970 or 71. But at any rate, we at that point had gotten a new pastor, and it was a Christmas Eve, and I was playing in a brass ensemble with 3 other students from my high school that also attended the same church. And while we'd play our little bit, and then somebody would do a reading, and then we'd play a little bit with the choir, and then somebody else would do a thing, and then finally came time for the sermon. And this pastor at my church that I had never really heard before, whatever, spent Christmas Eve shitting on the Jews for killing Christ.
Right.
And it was at that point I realized that these things that I had doubts about probably are bullshit. And that will come back to play a bigger portion and a later portion of the story. But yeah, that was the beginning of the end for me. Like I at that point I started saying that if there's a God, she made me a doubter. And then 7 years later, I got the courage up to actually just.
As a reply.
Say again.
Anyone reply to that? The reply to that statement that she
yeah, first, the immediate reaction wasn't so much that I was a doubter, but that I referred to God as a she.
That's what I mean.
She. Well, I did say doubter. Kind of the beginnings of the doubt.
If you see giraffes, because apparently there's one right behind you.
It's Carl.
Careful. You named him Carl.
I didn't name him. Now I can't remember who did. Friend of mine decided to. I think it might have been Wild Tanuki that named him Carl. I can't remember. Sorry.
What? He's with us.
I don't know anyway, about anybody else, but I am having a really hard time hearing you.
Oh. Why? I don't know. Everything phone's on. This is normally where I sit. This should be fine, dude.
That I heard.
Okay. Well, maybe there's a little break up for. We all know that my internet time, so.
Yeah, I will just continue to ask you to repeat things as necessary. That's okay.
Pretend like you're old and you can't hear a thing.
Pretend like I'm old.
No, no, thanks. I ate already. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean I need a fork for this soup?
All right, let's not get crazy here. Ends. I pooped myself
Twice. So that was the beginning of the end for me. In college,
see the playback on.
Yeah, I did go back to
and I'm kind of choppy. That's too bad.
No idea what you said, so I'm just gonna say I did go back and play in 2 more brass ensembles for holidays at that church, an Easter and another Christmas. And the final straw was that I was being paid to do that gig, and it was fairly decent money for a high school kid with, you know, no aspirations.
To finish.
Huh?
I said right.
Right.
Yes.
My dad made me give that money back to the church as a tithe. I couldn't even keep the fucking money after being forced to sit through that horse shit. So then I just got angry about the whole fucking prospect and decided I was never going to do that shit again. And then I went to college and started debating atheist friends of mine. And one of them in particular had fairly impressive arguments, but not so much that I was willing to concede that I was anything more than a doubter still. But I had my leanings. And I don't remember that there was necessarily a thing that happened between then and turning roughly 23 when I finally just committed to the idea of admitting that I'm an atheist. But most of that intermittent time was me getting over the fear of hell. That was by far the hardest. That was by far the hardest obstacle for me.
What was it that convinced you ultimately that there wasn't a hell?
That it was foolish of me to continue to worry about the one thing that I was stuck on when there was everything else that I had already realized was horseshit. You can't say the Noah's Ark story is horseshit, but hell is true. That doesn't make any sense. And granted, it took me a long time to sort that out, but ultimately that's what it was that I wasn't afraid of Noah's Ark. I was never instilled with a fear of not believing the Noah's Ark story. And frankly, it was never presented to me as something that I should believe anyway. It was always something that got laughed at by a significant percentage of us when the kids left the church to go have student or whatever Sunday school or whatever. Every time Noah's Ark came up, it was just a giggle fest. I don't believe any of us thought that story was supposed to be taken literally, and nobody pressed us to see that we did. But the hell thing was a totally different fucking thing. We don't care if you believe that there was a Noah guy who threw a bunch of animals on a boat, but you are by God going to live in fear of hell. And that fucking stuck.
Well, yeah, that's how they keep it, right?
Yeah. I never was convinced otherwise. Even with my earliest doubts, I was thoroughly convinced that everything about church was mind control.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that my dad continued to give money to the church when he didn't have any idea where it was going, and then insisted that I donate the only money that I was earning that was coming from the church back to the church. I'm like, what does God need my fucking money for?
What does he need anyone's money for?
Yeah, that's why I still make fun of people who are so committed to making sure they give their 10%. I actually sat and watched somebody do math in church to make sure they were given 10%. First of all, if you can't figure out 10% in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
was.
You should be at school, not fucking church, if you
Yeah,
can't
I
figure
always
out
struggle with
10%.
people trying to figure out a tip. Like, oh God, what's 5% of $8? Well, okay, what's 10% of $8? Now divide that by 2. That's 5%. It's not that goddamn.
I've been a teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, what kind of beer wrap you got there?
The wrap is that's a NASCAR wrap. I'm drinking an American Pale Ale.
Well, whose number you got there?
It was Tony Stewart's. It's a big Tony.
Oh, okay.
We're roughly the same age. He's from Columbus, Indiana. I'm from about 150 miles north of there, but also a Hoosier.
Very cool.
He was a firebrand. He started out running Indy cars. Being from Indiana, that's a big deal. Yeah, I just think he's a pretty cool guy. I've met his family.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
cool.
Before he bought into Stuart Haas, he had a store in Indianapolis that two of his aunts, a sister, and one of his nieces ran the store. And I sat in there for like an hour and a half talking shit with them because they had just had a family reunion. They were fully primed to tell a bunch of fucking family stories. So I just sat there. I just sat in there while they talked shit about their own family.
You're all like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting.
That was fun.
Yeah. Now I've got ammunition.
Yeah. In fact, I missed it. I didn't realize there was they have an indoor midget race here in town that they hadn't had for years and years. I can remember my mom worked it when they had the first race, and one of her jobs was to go to the Pepsi distributorship to buy tanks. It used to come in tanks of just the Pepsi syrup so that they could smear that on the concrete floor of the venue so that the tires wouldn't slide around so they could actually race. And I don't know if that's still how they do it, but I was watching on a YouTube clip of Tony Stewart in that race 2 weekends ago that I didn't realize was going on. And he got out of the line and his tires stuck and he almost flipped it. And I was like, I bet there's a lot of fucking Pepsi syrup on that floor. Because otherwise he'd have just slipped around. But it almost flipped. At any rate.
Wow. Crazy.
So then, as I aged, I became a bit more of a firebrand atheist. I got really tired of hearing people defend, like anybody that was willing to defend slavery in the Bible was that just makes me livid.
Yeah, agreed.
And God, it was in I had to have been at or shortly after 40 when I got a Google Plus account. Yeah, I know. But that's where I met SJ. And we started our talks that she apparently fails to recall any of, which I think is pretty funny, but whatever.
That's convenient.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember you. And I was like, well, Artimus Branesample is a pretty easy name to forget. But I started making comments on Facebook. And that was no big deal right up until my mom got a Facebook account. And I think I was 43 at the time, something like that. And I had come up from Indianapolis where I was living to visit my folks. And we're sitting at the kitchen table. And my mom says something to me about, is there a reason I need to be so open about my atheism on Facebook? And that was the point at which that was the moment that I learned that my mom had a fucking Facebook account. And I literally in my head, I'm thinking, what is she even talking about? Because all the really good shit is in private groups that I know she doesn't have access to. So what the fuck is she talking about that she's seeing that is so outrageous? But at any rate, the conversation went on, and I said, I'm just being myself and not trying to bring down anybody specifically. I'm just pointing out bad ideas when I see them. And like, well, we would appreciate it if you wouldn't be so open about it on Facebook. And I was like, why? Well, some of our friends might read that and not be okay with it. And my immediate response was, why should I give a shit about that?
Yeah, exactly.
And then my dad got fired up. And at this point, my dad is kind of hanging on by a thread at this point, but he wasn't in dramatically better condition then. And he had always been a very intimidating force in my life as a kid. And he tried to get all blustery with me. I stuck his chest out and his shoulders back. And he said, it matters to us because we have to deal with our friends. And I turned to him and I said, but I don't have to deal with your friends. And why are your friends reading my Facebook account? Because he had no fucking clue how Facebook worked and still doesn't. But remember I said earlier that it sounded like shit, so it probably was. My dad asked the question. He said, so why are you an atheist anyway? I said, because somebody, when I was a kid, taught me that if it sounded like bullshit, it probably was. And it was my dad. So
you're kidding me.
Really fired up because I used him as my reasoning for having left the church and lost the faith. And he could not abide. By then he's all puffed up. His face is red. He's got veins popping. And I said, you need to calm down. And he had his hands on the table. And I don't know what the fuck he thought he was going to do. Could have just blown really hard at him and knocked him down. But I just sat there and stared at him like, I'm not intimidated by you anymore. You are going to have to find something else to do, old man. This is,
isn't that kind of funny? I think we all kind of have that moment with our dads. Well, most of us anyways, because I had a very similar moment with mine. And he had the sudden realization that I was a lot bigger than him at that point, and I could lift him up with one arm off the ground and hold him up against the wall.
Yeah, I had been able to beat my dad's ass for many, many years before that conversation. And that was his realization that there really wasn't any threat that he was going to make that was going to stick. No amount of you fucking putting your chest out at me is going to make me think twice about anything I'm about to say. You're not a threat.
Yeah.
You can take away as much from me as you want to, but you acting like you're going to beat my ass, not a threat, old man. That's just no. But my mom was all bent out of shape, and I was like, you know what? Fine, screw it. I'm just going to get off Facebook because there's no sense in me trying to please you with every comment that I make on Facebook because one of your friends might see the goddamn thing. I'm not going to live my life that way. Yeah. My mom said, well, maybe that's a good idea. I said, it's a great idea. And I canceled my Facebook account that night.
That's why I couldn't find you when I tried to find you on there. Not that I really use Facebook much anymore, but and Stevie's saying he never learned how Facebook worked. Well, what they do is they follow everything that you like and you watch, and then they target market you with specific stuff that you might actually buy. Yeah, that's how Facebook works.
Yeah, I'm willing to accept all the pitfalls of it, aside from the fact that I'm just not going to defend myself to my fucking parents. Yeah. You made me this way, whether you fucking like it or not. You gave me the opportunity to think for myself, and this is what became of it. And now you're mad? Fuck off.
You don't have many explanations for who you become anyway.
Yeah, they didn't go out of their way to instill any particular religiosity in me, and that was great. Right up until the moment that I expressed how I actually felt about all that shit, and suddenly it was problematic. I'm like, well, that's not how this game gets played. You don't get to. No. You let me think for myself, and when I did, you got mad. Who are you, Christ?
Oh man,
we're gonna have that conversation because that was the other thing is that I know that I know more about their religion than they do, and that would not resolve anything for me to let them know that. My parents didn't know why Welch's grape juice had any ties to United Methodists. I'm like, because we're not allowed to drink fucking booze. Welch had a bunch of grapes, decided to start selling grape juice, Then because he was United Methodist, he started selling it to United Methodist churches. Boom, it's an empire. That's the story of Welch's.
Another thing too, when I was a kid in synagogue, they always have, on Shabbat, they'd have the wine that they pour around, but the kids got the Welch's grape juice. So all the religious outlets probably for making Welch's what it is today.
Yeah.
Because it was kid-friendly wine.
Quite literally, religion that made Welch's an empire.
Right, and it even came in white.
Fucking Catholics, they didn't give a shit. They just fed their kids booze.
Well, I do know that, as I've seen a few myself over time, is they do take a rag when they're performing a circumcision. The mohel takes a rag and he dips it in wine and sticks it in the kid's mouth.
Yeah,
to kind of get them knocked out before they do the little snip.
Right? Of what you're going to need to get over this amount of pain.
Yeah, exactly. I had wine before all my friends. Well,
I think I had it the same night. It was church camp. We went Methodist church camp, and it was winter time.
Oh, gosh. And
somebody's parents or grandmother, I don't remember. Somebody's family member made wine, which, considering they were United Methodist, that's just funny. It's like Baptists accidentally meeting at a liquor store. And we got hammered one night at church camp. And to his credit, it was the good pastor before the idiot pastor. He knew damn well what had happened, and he didn't say a fucking word to anybody's parents about it. Because by the time he realized that he had 10 drunk boys in his dorm, he wasn't about to admit it to anybody. How the fuck did that just happen?
Obviously, I guess you guys snuck some bottles and hit them somewhere. Or?
Yeah, I don't know how this. I don't know. I just remember drinking it and being really fucked up. It was definitely the first time I ever had a buzz.
Wow, cool. It's great when you get to do that.
I know it wasn't very good wine because it was.
Look at me.
It was sweet enough for kids to drink it to excess, so it couldn't have been very good wine.
It sounds like the Passover wine that we have to drink. Basically, it's alcoholic grape juice.
Yeah, it was fortified grape juice.
which is actually really good. I always hoard a bottle for myself and take it home.
My son's mom made the sacramental wine for her Catholic church. Same woman took a puppy out in the backyard, actually took a puppy out to the ditch and shot it in the head because it kept shitting in her house.
What? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and she knew damn well that her granddaughter and I would have happily taken that puppy from her. And no, she didn't even tell us that she'd done it until 2 months after the fact. I'm like, I'm not talking to that bitch ever again. Yeah,
no kidding.
And I didn't.
That kind of shit infuriates me when I hear about stuff like that.
Yeah, you're welcome to say and do to me whatever the fuck you want, but if you do something to my dogs, be aware that they aren't going to find your body.
Wood chippers are cheap to rent.
Yeah. Is that your friend there in the chipper? I wouldn't call him a friend. No. No, I had a camp host in West Virginia tell me a story about how he had to beat somebody's dog to death because it was aggressive towards him. And I just leaned into him. I said, if you hurt one of my dogs, nobody's ever going to find your corpse. And he looked at me and he kind of chuckled, and I was like, that was the end of that fucking conversation. This crazy motherfucker might be serious. I was damn serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were in BFE, in the middle of BFE. Nobody was finding that motherfucker. He wouldn't know. People wouldn't even know he was gone for at least a month. By that time, the squirrels would have gotten those nuts. Guy reeked. I don't know how long it had been since he'd had a shower, but I'd measure it in moon cycles.
I used to live with a guy like that. It's like the only time he ever showered was if he was invited out somewhere, like to a wedding or a funeral or something. Because I never saw him fucking jump in there unless he absolutely had to.
I am not a daily bather, but I do update the deodorant and powder and powder and clean my butts, my bits as needed. But yeah, that's why it was a big deal. I told you to take a shower. Just wanted y'all to realize that not only is it fresh, it's applied to bits.
I shower every day. I don't wash my hair every day because that's actually not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And that's why it's still so nice and soft and shiny.
Like a baby's behind.
Yeah.
All furry.
It's actually like a fucking rat's nest at the moment, but that's okay.
Yeah, drag a couple of bricks across it, you'll be all right.
All right, so we covered kind of how you fell away from the faith. What made you decide to want to be like an activist, or I
think it really boiled down to I really enjoyed debate,
okay.
and I think that's why I spent as much time on Google Plus as I did. I didn't migrate to Twitter until Google Plus was already dying on the vine, and for a while I still think as a format, it's a great place to have debates. Was a great place to have debates, but it just there's no fucking audience, and you were talking to the same 16 people all the time, and only so many times you can interact with somebody like SJ, out of necessity before you want to eat a bullet. So I had friends on Twitter, and I jumped on, and I didn't immediately get it, but for me. I didn't mind the fact that we were limited to whatever it was, 120 characters or whatever it was, because it forced an economy of language upon me that, you got to use the best words possible to avoid using extraneous words. So it clarified, my word usage, and it clarified tactics in debate so that, it couldn't really do a long drawn out debate when you only had so much time to keep their interest. And if the idea was, and it was for me, to continue the debate, that you couldn't jump in and throw out your best fucking argument or your weakest fucking argument. You just had to throw out one that was good enough to keep them engaged long enough for you to set them up to look like an idiot. And so I learned to refine things, and then we got the gift of having twice as many characters and become a little more long-winded, and the setups could be a little more clever. And for me, the challenge is to avoid falling into somebody else's trap and getting as many people as possible to fall into mine, where they're either forced to admit that what I have said is correct, or they're forced to shut the fuck up and go away. And there are a few comments that, if you ever want to end a conversation with somebody who is just a torturous debater, I probably said this 50 times, and not even kidding, that of that, probably 48 times it ended the conversation. The question is, are you so committed to your fear of hell that you can't conceive of living a life without it?
Answers to that?
And either they have, two people have tried to answer, and both of them were stupid, but at least they tried. But every other time I've asked that question, it's ended the conversation. It's fabulous. Because if nothing else, that either that's a young person who will just acquiesce and admit that they can't answer that question and just walk away humbly, or somebody will think about it and realize that their answer is going to make them look like a lunatic, so they don't answer, or whatever. But the goal for me is to get somebody else that's watching to think about what I've said in relation to what they've said. And only on very rare occasions do I hope that I'm saying something that makes somebody think. But it's for me, the evidence suggests that if nothing else, that question forces people to think every time I ask it, and that's why I keep asking it. I'm waiting for a really good answer to it too. I'd love to. I don't know what that would be, but I've not seen one. So one of them was, I don't fear hell. I celebrate the love of the Lord. And I was like, then why should I fear hell? That's all you've been talking about. And then that was the end of the conversation. All right. Well, that was easy.
Well, yeah. I mean, if he doesn't, why should you, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to live in fear of something that even you won't live in fear of. And you seem to have reasons to live in fear of it. And I sure as fuck don't. So,
nope.
Compelling argument. Thanks for making it.
Thanks for playing. We have a lovely home version of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget there's a bag out back with some shit in it for you. I think it includes the home game and a pack of cigarettes and a 5-pack of beer.
To a live taping of our show.
It used to be my favorite thing to give people for Christmas is a 5-pack of beer.
Yeah. Well, I had to make your interest at heart here.
Yeah. I'm going to give you shitty beer. I could have put the cap back on.
Yeah, and then just told me it was some sort of factory defect.
Yeah, there was a mouse in it. For those of you who don't remember
mouse. Didn't they do that on what the fuck? The Bob and Doug McKenzie movie?
Yeah.
Strange Brew, where they had the mouse in the bottle.
There was a mouse in the bottle.
That was like almost the entire plot of the movie. Was when they go
that's
back
how
there.
They got all the beer for the rest of the movie. Was it started with that, and then they won the lawsuit, and then they're in winning the lawsuit, they just got beer. They got paid in beer. But you remember about halfway through the movie, every wall in the house is lined with cases of beer.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so
great movie. It didn't hold up great, but it's a great movie for those of us who watched it when it did hold up.
Yeah. Oh, that was a long time ago, man.
Fuck yeah. It's like 7th or 8th grade for me.
Yeah, probably around there.
Something like that.
Sometime.
30-something years ago. 30 years ago.
Yeah, like 1980 or 81, I think it came out. Anyway. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Strange Brew, it's pretty funny. It's cheesy as fuck, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's quintessential 1980-something Canada. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I think my favorite part is when Rick Moranis drinks all the beer that they try to drown him with in that container. Yeah. When he's stuck in there with the girl. Oh, and the hockey game. That was great, too.
Yeah, there's a lot about that movie that was fucking great.
Oh, yeah.
They started out as a bid on CCTV. Is that what it was?
SCTV.
SCTV.
Yeah, CCTV is closed caption television.
Uh-huh.
like the cameras that I got hidden in my room here for when I have those, intimate nights that I can throw up on porn.
That's where I recognize the back of your head.
The back of my head.
You do have supple knees.
Don't tell everybody.
Not soft hands, but very supple knees for some reason.
No, my hands are anything but soft, man.
Yeah, no. Considering what you work with and specifically the materials you work with, and then what you do with your hands, I'm guessing they're not. Yeah, they sound really soft. It sounds like. Yeah, mine used to sound like that when I was standing over a shovel for a living. You could actually hear there'd be clicks between the calluses on my fingers. When I run them together, you could actually hear the calluses click over each other like armadillo.
Somebody a few booths over. Is that Morse code?
Yeah. Yeah, I always had a callus here, the big ones across here, slightly smaller ones across here, and then decreasingly smaller ones on either side of my knuckles all the way up my fingers. They were always wrapped around a shovel.
You don't have to go full speed all the time. Sorry, you're just taking a big swig there. Oh, I see people do that to me all the fucking time, and I'm surprised that my screen doesn't have beer all over it half the time.
I am well rehearsed because people try to do it to me on purpose because I do it to them on accident so many times. Yeah, I used to have emery boards in my house. I still do occasionally, but a friend of mine that I worked with, and he worked hardscaping, so he was working with concrete mix and concrete block and shit like that all the time. But my hands were more callous than his, and he's like, "Why do you have fucking emery boards, you homo?" And I was like, "First of all, there's nothing gay about having emery boards." And I said, "Plus," and I took the roughest side of the emery board and I drug it across the calluses on my hand. And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea." And I was like, "Yeah, gonna run that fucking homophobic fucking joke by me again?"
I'll emery board your nose right off your fucking face.
Turn you back into a ginger, you summer blonde.
Summer blonde. Summer blonde?
He was. It's a redhead that turned blonde every summer.
Oh. My roommate's kind of that way, actually.
Okay.
She does that too. All right, so let's get back on topic here. Now we keep fucking...
That's what I do.
Yes, well, that's okay. It happens in every one of these things anyway, so it's all good.
Artimus tangent. So
that works.
Okay, next question.
Are you going to change your name to some form of the Godless Iowan like everybody else has been doing?
No, I'm going to go with philosophically brain-sampled Artimus Iowan.
I like it. Well, apparently our devious plan worked. He changed his
I was one of the people that was giving Matt shit about that because I didn't think it was a good idea. That's like changing the name of Ford to philosophically Ford and thinking that nobody's going to notice or that it's going to improve sales or like, no, you're just complicating the issue with doing that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand wanting change because everyone wants that once in a while. But when you've already had a brand out there
that's working,
stay with it. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's an appropriately descriptive. I mean, ex-Pentecostal Iowan would be the only more accurate fucking label for him, and that's a little wordy.
No, I always liked it just as the Godless Iowan.
Yeah,
there's not much left that people can use.
He even had good reasons for using it. He said, he chose it because something about if you search for him and you put in @the and you followed me, it automatically went to me. And I was like, yeah, that works. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Perfectly legitimate, reasonable, good marketing idea, blah, blah, blah. Then he changed it to philosophically godless. I'm like, what? No. You were doing so well.
Oh yeah, I never really did hear about why he decided to try that switch up. Anyways,
I think he felt like by having a label godless that it was too limiting to his potential audience, and he wanted people to know that he also talked about philosophy, so he went with that. And I don't think people don't watch Logic that would be interested in philosophy because there's no philosophy in his name.
True.
I expect to hear something of philosophy from Logic.
Yeah. Plus, when you're talking in your videos, anyways, you can always discuss on the fact that you do bring up philosophy stuff, anyways.
Sure, or just bring up philosophy stuff, and which is what he was doing.
Yeah.
I think that was my bigger frustration, that I thought he was already doing a really good job of involving philosophy in what he was talking about, and that he was trying too hard to emphasize that versus who he was and what he was doing. I don't know. It just seems silly to me. Wasn't mad at him for it. I'm thrilled that he agrees with me, I guess, which is stupid, but.
Well, I'm with you on the branding thing, right? If you've already got something that's working, stick with it.
Yeah, don't launch Coke 2. It's a bad idea.
Yeah. We learned that lesson already.
Yeah, you're gonna kill your sales.
What was the other one? Fucking Crystal Pepsi. You remember Crystal Pepsi?
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
That was also actually that was a better idea, but it was so weird to taste. It was the exact same thing without the color being associated with it. Like you might as well have made it green.
Don't give me any ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Like green ketchup and purple ketchup.
Well, you can use. I don't know if you can get tomato ketchup to taste like tomato ketchup with green tomatoes, but you can do it with purple tomatoes.
Yep.
Because purple tomatoes are at least ripe, but green tomatoes do taste different.
Yeah,
maybe if you put more sugar in it. I don't know. Let's look into it. Anybody in the comments know how they made green ketchup? and did you try any? And did it taste like red ketchup?
I tried all of them, and they all taste like ketchup, pretty much. It's just
I think
people could. Yeah, pretty much. I think they just couldn't get over the color change. Like it was too extreme for them.
Yeah,
not so much with the purple blasted.
I'll bet a lot of blind people were laughing at color-sighted people for not being able to live with that distinction.
They probably wouldn't even know.
Yeah, exactly.
Rainbow ketchup.
Depending on what kind of colorblind they are, chances are they wouldn't be able to tell the difference between purple, red, and green. So,
yep.
You know, my uncle
Bible Belt Atheist is like rainbow ketchup.
Yeah. Looks the same to me.
I don't think they could do anything like that. That'd be too tough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird that my uncle's colorblind and nobody else in my family is. He's the only living member of my family that's colorblind. And he's got...
Is colorblindness hereditary?
Yeah.
Or is it just something that can happen?
No, it's a hereditary thing. It's not like red hair. It's not like it doesn't even show up with that kind of prevalence. But yeah, I can't remember. Yikes. It was one of the things we studied in when I was learning genetics in fucking high school, but I don't remember how. It's like a double recessive, and I don't remember if that's a thing or what it meant. Just something like, I don't know, something like that.
In a class, were you?
Yeah, might as well have been. I think you know what I meant when I tried to say it just now. The wrong words. Can we communicate?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Did you see what Triax 666 had to say?
No. What's that fucker called?
Artimus, get off the internet, you ugly brat. Man, why you got to pick on the giraffe?
Wait a minute. Trax, was it you that named Carl? Trax, who named Carl Carl? You missed that from earlier because you're slack jaw. Surprised you're still awake. Don't turn this up too loud. Your neighbor will get pissed. For those of you that don't know, Trax's walls are so thin that he can't be on late night live streams because his neighbor will complain. because he's talking in his fucking apartment.
He claims it was Stags that named the giraffe Carl.
That's as reasonable as not. That also fits.
I can see that.
Yeah, it was a completely out of the blue fucking name. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. In fact, I think it's probably from Carl from Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, yeah. That's immediately what I thought of as soon as you mentioned the name.
Shoot him through the eye. Take a bite out of him.
Should put a patch on him.
Yeah, it's just take a bite of his leg and put a patch over his eye.
We got too much dead air going on here, brother. You carry on with your story.
About Carl, I didn't have one. What story was I telling?
Just about why you became it.
I don't know that I would necessarily call myself an activist so much as I am somebody who actively goes out of their way to address the claims of theists.
I guess definition.
If that qualifies as activism, then I accept. I'll use
sure.
It. But, it's really
you're not doing is making up flyers.
Yeah. I also don't stand on street corners or set out in public to have debates. Although if somebody wants to bring up religion in front of me, they're going to get an earful of why I don't want to hear them bringing up religion in front of me in public.
Mm-hmm.
When my son's mom and I were living in California, she was we had some things going on. She had some bigger things going on than I did at the time, and she was home most days. And as much as anything, just to have somebody to talk to, she started talking to Jehovah's Witnesses, and it had gone on long enough that not only did she feel like she should mention it to me, but she wanted to stop and didn't know how. And I said, well, just have them show up on a Saturday or something when you know I'm going to be home. So the next time they showed up, I was there, and the windows on the front of the house were open. We had a great big window right next to the front door, so there was no way they didn't hear what I was screaming. And I go, God damn it, bitch! Those fuckers are back! Get your ass out here and tell those sons of bitches to go away, or I'm gonna beat your ass! And they fucking turned tail and walked away, and I was like, I think it worked, honey. I had told her what I was going to say. There was nothing about that had anything to do with the nature of our relationship. It was all funny, except to them. Funny thing was that they apparently thought something bad was going down, and they didn't bother to call the police.
Probably not. They used to come by where I lived when I was actually in like a house. They would stop by every once in a while, and I was really not there most of the time when they would do it. So my roommate was always had to deal with them. They finally showed up when I was home one day, and I had like Slayer playing in the background, and I was going. And they knock on the door. I go, "Oh, hey, fellas, just about to take a bath. You guys want to join me?" And they turned around and walked away.
I was just about to take a bath. I got the blood all warmed up. You guys want to come in?
Yeah. Trax wants to know what your opinion of the farting lesbian penguins of Ecuador or something. Some inside thing between the two of you.
It's not an inside thing between the two of us. It's a thing that I should probably be aware of, and I'm not particularly. I'm just going to say that I think they should be allowed to live as they see fit, so long as they're not getting in anyone's way. And while their flatulence is an issue, they're not very large animals, so I'm not certain that we should be concerned about the amount of methane or anything they're contributing to the ecology. So I'm just going to go with live and let live, and until their existence becomes problematic for me or somebody else, I'm really not going to have a problem with them.
Okay.
Also, I think they should be allowed to get married in their culture.
Talking about penguins?
Yeah. Isn't that what we were talking about?
Penguins get married?
Yes.
Penguins get married?
Sure.
Wait, what?
Whenever two or more of them are gathered in his name, there is love. For any of you
I'm
Christian enough to have heard that goddamn song one too many times, you know what I'm talking about? It's a shitty Christian song that got played a lot at Christian weddings in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Tragic level of frequency, considering how horrible the fucking song is. It's kind of like the American national anthem, only worse.
What do you got against your national anthem?
It's a horrible fucking song.
Oh.
It was a bad poem put to bad music.
Wow.
We didn't even have a national anthem until after World War II. I don't understand why people get so offended when I have a comment about what a crap national anthem we have.
You
We
guys
fought
actually
2 world wars before anybody gave a fuck about whether or not we even had a national anthem. Ours sucks. It was a bar. It was a raunchy bar tune. Which is why the only way you can sing all the notes in it are blind drunk and screaming.
You guys used to do. You think that was sort of an anthem as well?
Canada has a perfectly lovely anthem. Oh, Canada.
They keep changing it.
Yeah, well, I keep changing ours by adding more God.
Oh, Canada.
We stand on guard for the It's a beauty country. Pass a beer to me.
And the hockey stick.
Yeah. Needs more maple.
Yeah, didn't you guys have another anthem too? It says here that you guys also had to, or one called America the Beautiful.
That's not an anthem, and that's got even more God in it.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, that one's God shed His grace on thee, which is awesome. We just completely ripped that song off of England, like almost word for word. We literally just stole it.
America, according to this website, has 5 national anthems. Star Spangled Banner has been the official national anthem since.
You guys getting all that? Lost all of that completely now.
Already?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Unless you're talking right now.
Can you not?
I lost the whole list after.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you little.
That's had 5 national anthems. I'm talking right now. Comments. Okay, apparently on my end, man. Anything? Fuck sakes.
Yeah, I could hear all that together. And then none of that.
Okay.
Except I heard the okay.
That's really weird. My connection's at full strength. Bitch. What about now? Oh, this. Oh, man.
This is a Neil freeze.
All right. Am I back? That I'm back. So.
You did it held up really well for a good half an hour right there in the middle, but it kind of started shit and it's ending shit.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe
you're gonna need to hit restart or refresh before you do the after show.
I don't know why this is happening. This is just fucking.
I don't know. I'm not above it, dude. There's you might have seen me associated with the words brain freeze before. That's it's kind of my thing.
How do you, what do you? All right, well, let's ready then. Anyways, we can have a few more people in here. Do 5 or 6 more people.
I think that sounds wonderful. I think.
One of those nihilisms.
Yeah, I saw that one.
All right, cool.
Wait, very stable said he said he was going to fart the Belgian national anthem. I desperately want to hear just what the Belgian national anthem sounds like without the farts. Holy fuck, what the hell just happened? He appears to have completely blanked out. I don't know. Seems to me that I'm the only one in here right now, so I'd like to apologize for all of that. Most of what happened earlier is clearly not my doing. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and spending as many as 15 minutes with us tonight. It was a pleasure to be here with my good friend Neil, who is one of the nicest people I have ever met in my life. And while the sex that we eventually have may not be fully consensual, I promise you that I will be as gentle a lover as he can possibly imagine. Right, Neil? Shit. See, he had rejoined the hangout when I was saying all that last part, and I thought he was gonna, jump in and say something. But no, he just kind of left me hanging there. And there he is. And not really.
What?
Oh. This is like watching
Something's wrong.
Stop motion animation be filmed.
Better at all now?
Nope, not dramatically. You look better.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, wait. Seems a little better. I can see.
I'm not entirely sure.
I can see you, hear you contiguously now. That's good.
Okay, good. Just in time to end the stream.
Yeah, thank goodness you came back, because I didn't know what to do. I can't end his own stream.
That's all right. I for whatever reason, everything froze here, and it dumped me out. It said you've lost connection. So, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I kind of panicked when it went blank, and then gave me some message that I'd never seen before.
What do I do now? All right. Well, let's here. We'll end this debacle, and we'll start up an after party, and we'll see how that goes.
All right. Seems to be working fine now.
All right. Yeah. Well, it could have just been a glare in the system. Who knows? Ghosts in the machine, man. Anyways, Artie, dude, thanks very much for doing this with me.
Thank you so much. I thank you for the patience of letting me have a second opportunity to pull this off.
Hey, man, the reason for your original no-show is completely understandable. And yeah, there's no way I could be upset with you for that. I was making fun of you a little bit, but
that's all right.
Be upset with you.
I'm good with that.
Okay. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Sorry that the quality on this one wasn't as semi-decent as it normally is. We're going to do an after party. So anyone who's interested, you know the routine. You can look me up on Twitter there and send me a message, and I'll send you a link if you're interested in joining. And I always post a link in the usual suspects. All right, let's do this. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And like I always say at the end of these things, remember, kids, it's called faith because it's not knowledge.
Philosophical.